Vivian Vance died tragically and unexpectedly one day after she revealed her secret to her husband. Vivian Vance was born Vivian Robera Jones on July 26, 1909 in Cherry, Kansas. Raised in a conservative household, Vivian's artistic ambitions were not always nurtured, as her mother, a religious woman, disapproved of her daughter's dreams of performing on stage, deeming the show business unsuitable for a young lady. But Vivian's passion for acting burned too brightly to be extinguished, and as a teenager, she participated in local plays, finding her calling in performance. After finishing high school, she left home to pursue a career in acting, adopting the stage name Vivian Vance. It was a bold and defiant move for a young woman at the time, particularly one from a strict Kansas family, but marked the beginning of a life that would inspire countless others to pursue their dreams in the face of disapproval. In the 1930s and 1940s, Vance honed her craft on the stage, performing in Broadway productions and establishing herself as a gifted comedic actress. She appeared in such shows as Music in the Air and Skylark, earning critical acclaim for a lively presence and a strong voice. Her years in the theater also taught her not only technical performance, but also how to command an audience's attention, experiences that served her well when she transitioned to television, a medium still in its infancy when she made her big break. That break came in 1951 when she was cast by Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball as Ethel Mertz in I Love Lucy, a role which would change her life forever. Ethel, the down-to-earth, witty, and loyal best friend of Lucy Ricardo, is one of the most iconic TV characters ever, and the chemistry between Vance and Ball was undeniable. On screen, they created a comedic duo whose antics and friendship captivated millions, with Vance's sharp wit and grounded portrayal of Ethel balancing Lucy's zany energy and creating one of the most beloved partnerships in TV history. Their comedic timing was impeccable, their friendship believable, and their laughter infectious. Behind the scenes, however, Vance faced challenges that tested her resilience, and despite their genuine affection for one another, her relationship with Lucille Ball was sometimes strained due to professional pressures and the enormous success of the show. Vance also had to contend with insecurities about her appearance and self-worth, especially since she was often costumed and styled to look older and less glamorous than Ball, even though she was only 2 years her senior. Moreover, her relationship with William Froley, who played her husband Fred Mertz, was notoriously frosty. Froley, much older and gruff, reportedly resented Vance's complaints about playing his wife, while Vance found it difficult to hide her discomfort with his drinking habits. Despite this tension, the two produced some of the most memorable comedic moments ever seen on television, a testament to both their professionalism and talent. After I Love Lucy ended, Vance continued to work closely with Lucille Ball on subsequent projects, including The Lucy Show and Here's Lucy, and their friendship grew into one of mutual respect and enduring affection. Off-screen, Ball often credited Vance for elevating her performances and being the perfect comedic partner, while Vance remained grateful for the opportunity the show had given her, even as she sought to branch out and establish herself as more than just Ethel Mertz. Her later performances, both on television and in theater, demonstrated her depth as an actress and her ability to connect with audiences in roles both comedic and serious. Vivian Vance's personal life was marked by a series of marriages that revealed much about her search for stability, companionship, and emotional fulfillment amid the pressures of fame and career demands. She had known the entire gamut of human relationships, the thrill of young love, the sadness of divorce, and finally the serenity of lasting partnership. Each of her 4 marriages told a different story, reflecting both the changing times and the evolution of Vivian herself. From determined young actress, struggling to find her place in the world, to mature woman who had learned to balance personal happiness with professional success, Vivian's journey was shaped by both ambition and heartache. Vivian first married Joseph Shearer Danick Jr. in 1928, when she was a young woman just starting a career in the theater, full of ambition but still searching for her footing. Joseph was a businessman and thus represented stability and perhaps a sense of normalcy that Vivian found comforting in her early 20s. However, the union proved to be short-lived. As Vivian became more passionate about performing, she became more entrenched in the world of entertainment, a life filled with traveling, rehearsals, and nights on stage, and Joseph reportedly struggled to understand her devotion to the theater, with the distance between them growing impossible to bridge. Their marriage ended in divorce in 1931, marking the beginning of a pattern in Vivian's life. Her career, while a source of great pride, often came at the expense of her personal relationships. In 1934, 3 years later, Vivian married George Coe, a musician and fellow performer, and their marriage was marked by a shared artistic interest and an understanding of the unpredictability of show business life. George's creative background gave Vivian the emotional support and companionship she needed as she continued to build her stage career during the 1930s, and the couple spent several years together as Vivian's star slowly began to rise. However, the pressure of a career in entertainment, along with the strain placed on any marriage by constant auditions, relocation, and professional uncertainties, eventually took its toll, and the marriage ended in divorce in 1940, just as Vivian's theatrical ambitions began to take her toward bigger opportunities. Though the relationship did not last, it helped mold Vivian's sense of independence and self-assurance, qualities that would later define her on and off screen. In 1941, Vivian entered what would be her most publicly known marriage to Philip Ober, an actor and director, and this relationship, spanning nearly 2 decades, was both professionally fruitful and personally turbulent. Philip and Vivian worked together on numerous projects, including stage plays and television, and during this marriage, Vivian achieved her greatest fame as Ethel Mertz on I Love Lucy, but behind the scenes, their relationship was fraught with tension. Ober, by many accounts, was controlling and critical, and his jealousy over Vivian's success only deepened as she became a cherished figure in American television. Friends and colleagues described their marriage as emotionally difficult, with Vivian enduring both verbal and psychological mistreatment, and despite the pain, she remained committed to maintaining appearances, perhaps out of loyalty or fear of scandal during a time when Hollywood frowned upon public marital discord. After nearly 18 years together, Vivian finally divorced Ober in 1959. Ending that marriage was not just the close of a painful chapter, it was liberation, and for the first time, she was finally able to truly enjoy her independence and emotional well-being. 2 years later, in 1961, Vivian found happiness with her marriage to John Dodds, a writer and literary agent. This marriage was unlike the others, rooted in mutual respect, affection, and understanding. Dodds admired Vivian for her intelligence, wit, and resilience rather than simply being a celebrity figure, and their relationship was one of companionship rather than competition. It gave her peace and the much-needed emotional stability she had been searching for. They settled in Connecticut and later spent time in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where Vivian enjoyed a quieter, more reflective life away from the Hollywood spotlight. She often credited John with bringing her true contentment in her later years and described their bond as one of deep friendship and trust. To the day Vivian died in 1979, the couple remained devoted to one another, and by all accounts, Dodds was her rock during her long battle with cancer. Vivian Vance died tragically and unexpectedly one day after revealing a secret that had weighed heavily on her heart for many years. To the public, she was the beloved Ethel Mertz from I Love Lucy, the quick-witted, lovable sidekick whose chemistry with Lucille Ball became one of television's most iconic partnerships. Yet behind her radiant smile and impeccable comedic timing, Vivian carried a burden of emotional pain, exhaustion, and resentment that few had ever suspected, and her death coming so suddenly after a moment of emotional vulnerability shocked those closest to her and left an air of mystery surrounding her final days. Vivian had always been known as a private and introspective woman, and to the outside world, she seemed full of life, glamorous, funny, and always ready to deliver a perfectly timed line. But her husband, John Dodds, knew there were parts of her past she refused to discuss. In the weeks leading up to her death, Vivian's health had been declining, and she seemed more reflective than ever. One evening, while sitting quietly with John in their home in Belvedere, California, she decided to unburden herself. With trembling hands and tears streaming down her eyes, she whispered, "There's something I've never told anyone, not even you." John would later describe that moment as one filled with a chilling stillness, as though Vivian knew this confession would be her final release from years of emotional turmoil. Her secret was connected to one of the most difficult relationships of her professional life, an intense hatred for her I Love Lucy co-star William Froley. For years, Vivian had kept silent about how much she hated him out of fear of a public backlash and the destruction of the popular imagery of the show. "I couldn't stand him," she now told John. "Every day on that set was a battle of endurance. He made my life miserable." Although somewhat expected by those familiar with the tensions on set, no one knew just how much it hurt her emotionally and mentally. Vivian divulged that Froley's constant barrage of insults and belittling attitude had made her feel humiliated. "He called me names when the cameras weren't rolling," she said softly. "He made cruel jokes about my weight, my looks, and even my age. I laughed on camera, but inside I wanted to cry."